There you go.
Great. Welcome everyone to this masterclass. So it is a finance masterclass, to be clear, but I'm gonna try to make it as fun as possible rather than boring. So hang in there with me. It's gonna be awesome. So I am Admira, I'm a CFO consultant. And what I do is I help small business entrepreneurs make better business decisions following their business numbers. So what I would like to start with, I was going to do breakout rooms, but being that we have few of us in a call today, so let's just do it live. Oh, we have one more member joining. Let's do it live. So I would like to take a few minutes to share a little bit about you. So what I would like to know from all of you is, one, introduce yourself and what you do. Two, share a fun fact about yourself. And one thing you are passionate about. I'm gonna put those questions in the chat and feel free to just come off mute and go.
Okay, I will start. My name is Brenda. I was born in Peru. I live in New York right now for work. Fun fact about me, I love carrying a disposable camera with me. Going to the third one, I love photography. So I guess it makes a little bit of sense. I'll pass it to Emily.
My name is Emily Davis. Did you want to know about our businesses or just?
Yeah,
okay.
Who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I own a business called Link House Consultants, which is a web design and marketing consultancy firm. And what we do is empower small business owners to take control of their marketing. And the website's kind of like the gateway entrance into that. A fun fact about me is that I know how to ride a unicycle. I was in a unicycle club for 3 years in elementary school and got to be in parades and stuff. I have not ridden in about 20 years, but I assume it's like riding half of a bicycle. So maybe I'll try again. And what I'm passionate about is helping take stress off of people. So with small business owners, I just love saying, like, how can I help you? What can I do to make your life better today? And that's what keeps me going. I love solving problems. So
awesome. That's awesome, Emily. Thank you. Who do you pass it
to? Karen.
Okay, so I'm Karen Perry. My company is Flat Graphics. I'm a graphic designer working with the nonprofit sector. And I, in fact, was living in Berlin when the wall fell. I'm passionate about painting and design.
Nice.
And I'm passing it over to Alex.
I had a feeling you were going to do that. Hi, everyone. I'm Alex. I started a small consulting firm working with nonprofits and small businesses, helping them figure out how to grow and scale. Fun fact about me is unrelated to work. I once accidentally ended up performing in the Avignon Theater Festival when I was in college. It was very much by accident. And one thing I'm passionate about, very similar to Emily's, I really love supporting my clients, the small businesses and nonprofits alike, and helping figure out what they need to help them grow, and then connecting people and communities so that they can share resources and knowledge and everything else too. So I will pass this to Rich.
Hi, there's not much left. Hi, I'm Rich Heller, and I work with couples and also individuals who are divorcing someone really toxic. And in both instances, I'm helping them to master conflict and turn it into creative, caring conversations so that they can have win-win alternative to their current win-lose experience. And let's see, what am I really passionate about? I'm passionate, we should talk about gardening today. You know, I'm a former garden designer in my previous life. And what was interesting about that is it was all about reweaving ecological threads, and now I get to reweave people's family threads.
Nice. I should reach out to Rich for some gardening tips now that I have started gardening.
Oh, I am a font of gardening knowledge. You should definitely, it's not being used anywhere else. Give me a call.
Awesome. Sam, are you with us? Are you able to come off mute and do the introduction? There he is.
Hey, yes, hello.
Hi. Please introduce yourself to us.
Hi to. Yes, I'm someone Ndungu. Yes, I come from Kenya. Yeah, right now I'm a student. Yeah, I'm in Egerton University, that is in Kenya. Of whom I do Bachelor of Education. Therefore, that's will be my profession will be in teaching. That's it. Though besides that, I love engaging into business activities, trying to learn more about entrepreneurship and so on. Therefore, I got a being this meeting, maybe to engage with several people here and there to exchange ideas, like how to do maybe business to improve profits and so on. Yeah, thank you.
Well, you are the right place. We're going to talk exactly that today. So thank you for being here.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you too.
Yeah, I always have fun doing these, and I've known Alex and Rich for a while, yet I didn't know these two fun facts about them. So I learned something new today myself. So go figure. So as I mentioned earlier, I am Admira, I'm a CFO consultant. A fun fact about me is I'm a car fanatic, and I love driving fast cars. Other than that, I don't do anything about cars. So, and one thing I'm passionate about, I love teaching, fun enough. And so I use my CFO background, but really to educate more so than do stuff and provide spreadsheets. It's like, no, you need to know this because. So I love teaching and I love traveling, mainly because I get to meet new people, new cultures, and get to learn about them. And it always, every time I go places, it fascinates me about things I get to learn about different people and places. Okay, so let's get this started. I'm gonna start sharing screen right now. So give me 1 second, I'm gonna do this the right way. Okay, share screen, and then everyone should be able to see my screen at this point. Okay, is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Let me just pull out chat on one side and then we'll get going. Okay, awesome. So today we're going to talk about hacking your profits. And specifically, we're going to talk about how to pay yourself, take control of your time, and have business you want by understanding the meaning of your numbers. Now, I learned a little bit about all of you today on the call. And what I want to follow up with is understanding what brought you to this call today. So I'm going to provide a list of reasons in a minute. And in the chat, if you can share one or two reasons that brought you to this call today. Go for it.
Yeah, so I'm a work less and earn more person. Aside from supporting the event, I would definitely like to work less and earn more. And the longer answer is I was just looking at my numbers and I realized that though the gross looks really good, what I'm actually earning could be much, 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 much better.
Great, awesome. Know what story numbers are telling you better.
Yeah, I second what he just said. My business revenue, like for the money that came in this year, looked great, but I know that I should be taking home more, and I feel like I'm not doing that. And so as I scale and grow, I need to get better control of those business finances.
Great, scale and grow your business. Awesome. That's awesome. So here's the good news. The good news is that I address all of these in my one-to-one work with my clients and in the course, which I'll talk more about at the end. The bad news is we will not be able to cover all of these today, but what we are going to cover in the next hour is figuring out what you're trying to accomplish and roughly a roadmap of how you're going to get there. So I will provide you some tools to figure out where should you be doing some improvements in your business so you can enable or accelerate those profits. Okay, so now here comes a serious finance question, the first one of the day. So when people talk about goals in business world, they mainly talk about revenue goals. Like everyone you talk to about is like, what are your business goals? They're like, oh, my revenue goal is this. So question, how many of you have a revenue goal for 2021? And I do know we're in September now, so some of you might even have a 2022 goal. But specifically what I want to know is how many of you have a revenue goal that is attached to a personal goal that you're trying to accomplish? Put one in the chat if you have a goal that is attached to a personal goal you're trying to accomplish, and put two if it's just, you know, I had X amount of revenue last year and I just added the percentage and that's my next. Two, okay. And if you do not have a revenue goal, that's totally fine as well. Actually, it will be very helpful to know that as well. 1.5, Emily. Great. Okay, so we have a mix. That's great. So, well, I should have posted this while I asked, but here is the problem. 30% of small businesses are just breaking even. 30% are constantly losing revenue. And only 9% of small businesses get the chance to survive beyond 10 years. This is statistics that came out of SBA. To me, these statistics are shocking, especially the 9%. So leaving the revenue goal alone, 9% of businesses get a chance of surviving. Now, here's what's more shocking. 86% of small businesses do not support the owner's lifestyle. 86% of small businesses pay their owners less than $100,000 a year. Now, I live in New York. $100,000 definitely is not going to help me get any kind of dream. If it gets me to pass by, that will be an accomplishment. So this is one thing I am passionate about. How to get the businesses to support the owner's lifestyle has been a passion of mine for as long as I remember. And so some of you might ask, where am I from? And some of you already know where I am from. But for the people who don't, let me tell you where I'm from. I'm from Montenegro, a small, teeny bitty country in Europe. It's right across from Italy. And don't be fooled by its little size, because we're very rich in nature. And that last picture is a picture I took, just like Brenda. I love photography, landscape photography. That's the last picture I took in my own hometown where I grew up. So I learned all about business at my parents' grocery store. And my first job ever was an ice cream fridge manager. Now, it was in front of that fridge that my dad started teaching me all about finances, gross profit margin and cash management and everything else in between of what I needed to know to run a business. But there is one lesson that he taught me the most, and it stuck with me for a very long time, is that the business is supposed to support the owner's lifestyle. So in return, they can make an impact in their community and people around them. Now, I've seen my dad do this many ways. He had a great mission of extending a helping hand. And I've seen him do this in many ways, but one that really stuck with me is when during the Serbia and Kosovo war, he hosted as many refugees as he could in our home and even in our apartment. Now, when he was arrested during some troubling times, because we were ethnic minorities in Montenegro, I ran my parents' store. I was 15 years old when I did this. So I know what I'm talking about when I say small business, because I've done it for a very long time. Now I do what my dad did, is I help small business entrepreneurs understand their business numbers so they can make better business decisions and support the lifestyle they want. Now, for granted, I know a little bit more than just running a little ice cream shop in a tiny bitty country of Montenegro. I'm actually a CFO, and I have over 10 years of experience working with multiple companies, including a multinational company. Now, a fun fact about CFOs you might not know is that we either come from a background of accounting or finance. And I come from both. Because I understood the entrepreneurial side of running a business, when it came to the formal education side, I wanted to understand all aspects of it. So I got myself a degree in business economics and accounting and wanted to understand all aspects of what it meant to run a successful business. Now, how do I help my clients achieve the life that they want? First thing we do, we cover what are they trying to achieve. we get to the bottom of it. What do you want to achieve? Then we quantify those goals, and then we create a plan that they can follow, that each quarter they can focus on without becoming overwhelming, that then they just ignore it. It's like, no, we have this quarter, this to do. It is doable and achievable, and we are going to follow it. And that gets them closer to that final goal that they're trying to achieve. Now, in this masterclass, what I'm going to do is we're going to figure out what you're trying to achieve. But before we can create a roadmap in understanding how we're going to get to the final destination, we need to understand where are we now. So I'm going to do about a 10-minute lecture on just few numbers that you need to understand. And I'm going to give you the tools you can take today, look at your business numbers, and figure out where you need to focus on improving so that you could see most of those profits come and accomplish your personal goals. Okay, so let's start. Where do you want to go? This is simply goals. And all of us in this call have heard or done goals in one shape or form. But why goals are important? They're important because in order to get what you want, you need to know what you want, right? So there's no point of saying like, oh, I want a car. What for exactly? Like, I don't understand why you need one. Like, oh, I want it because X, Y, Z. So it's important that we understand what are we trying to accomplish. Now, when I say goals, and every single time I work with entrepreneurs and I ask them to write down their goals, usually they tell me about something big they're trying to do. Oh, I want to get a villa. I want to travel the world. And those are all great goals. The problem I have with that is that that's not covering everything. And so we get to the bottom of the goals need to be in 3 buckets. 1, there's a need. 2, there's a want, and there's a dream. A need is something we need to survive. So there should be a personal goal that the business is supposed to pay for all of my living expenses today. And if it's not, then there's something really wrong that we need to figure out and fix right away. If your business is not able to support your needs, then alternatively, you're going to start racking up debt on your own personal life, which just doesn't do good to anybody, right? So figuring out what your needs are and making sure that the business covers them is number 1 and very important. Then we talk about the wants and the dreams. If I can illustrate this to you, so let's assume eating. Like this is essential for everybody. We need to eat. A need could be like, you know what, buying groceries and cooking at home. You know, you could be in business for the first or second year, but then, you know, we can upgrade. So let's say need is cooking at home. Then we upgrade to a want. It could be like 2-3 times a week we can go to a restaurant. And a dream could be like we have a chef at home. Are all of them achievable? Yes. You just need to know the priority of them, right? So rather than saying like, I want a chef, I'm like, great, that's work to get a chef. But right now, let's make sure that we have enough to cover the groceries we need to eat. Does that make sense? Great. Now, I wish we had enough time to go through each of these today, but what I want to do right now, we have an activity. And what I want to do is that in this activity, I want you to share one dream goal you've been wanting to have or get, because it could be a material thing or something that you want to do, but you pushed it aside because other things were priority. What is this goal? I would like for you to share with us, if you're comfortable, again, if you're comfortable sharing, and why is this goal important to you? And also, how would you feel if you accomplished this goal? I'm going to give you one example for myself, because I just did this for our own family. So my husband has been talking about a Rolex watch for as long as I remember. I think it's more than 5 years for sure, because it was before Edwin was born. So I think it was like 7 years or so. He's been talking about a Rolex watch. he's into watches. He's like just something that makes him feel good on having. And we of course pushed it aside all these years because like, oh, this needs to be done, that needs to be done. And this year, finally, I said, okay, enough. We're gonna put this in a plan. We're gonna plan for you to get this watch because it's something you've been talking about and wanting for so many years. Now, how would he feel if he accomplished his goal? Probably he would just feel great that in a way, like he made it. Like for him, it's like, I worked so hard. I did so much. And here's my reward. So who would like to share next? One goal, dream goal that you would like to accomplish, but you pushed it aside because other things became a priority. And I think Rich just wrote family retreat on lake. That's awesome. I will have a follow-up on that in a minute, but I'm gonna ask for volunteers to speak up in a minute about how we quantify that. Anybody else willing to share a dream goal?
I would really like to renovate a bathroom in our house. That's something that my kids are becoming teenagers and that bathroom needs help.
Okay. Renovating a bathroom.
I think I would love to travel to Europe. I've never been to Europe, and that's a big dream of mine, especially now that you showed us pictures of, yeah, it looks beautiful.
I was gonna say, should Montenegro be the first one on the list? Awesome, okay, great. So Brenda, Emily, and Rich just shared a dream goal. Did either of you quantify this goal? And why is that you really never put it a priority? Emily, I'm gonna pick on you if that's okay.
That's fine. It hasn't been a priority because the bathroom functions, it does its job. And so every time we look at spending money on it, we go back to, well, we do have debt, still carrying student loans, things like that. And we probably should put the money over there. And so, yeah, it's easy to put aside because the other thing's still working.
Got it. Okay. So in this case, what I would do is, as you are planning for Q4 and Q1 of 2022, I would figure out what is the total cost of renovating the bathroom. I don't know construction, it amazes me how much construction costs. So I would get real quotes, get contractors in the house and be like, give me a quote, what it would cost me to do this. You're not committing to anything. You just want to understand what would actual cost be to renovate this, and then get 2 or 3 quotes, don't get more. Because, again, shopping around, saving money is the key. And 2, once you find out the amount, come up with the doable goal. When do you want this done? Let's assume it's $50,000. Again, I'm going to reiterate that I'm not good with construction costs. Let's say it's $50,000. And I want to do this in 2 years. I'm committing in 2 years, we're going to do this. Okay. Now, what I want you to do when you create a plan for your business plan for the quarter of the year. So okay, $50,000, 1 second, 50,000 divided by 24, that's $2,000 a month. $2,000 a month should be doable. If it is not, then you can be like, okay, maybe 2 years is not enough. In 3 years, I'm gonna do this because I have student loans. I have to put some money on the student loans. That's totally fine, but commit to it. It's like, okay, 1,300. This is totally doable. Great. On that plan of yours, when you create a plan for your business, you're gonna have a bottom line where you're gonna have a deduction of $1,388. This is a fictitious number, but again, just for illustration, that is going straight to a separate savings account for this bathroom. And let me give you a tip. Get a savings account at a bank where you do not have access to. No branch, no checks, nothing. Really put it aside. I have this one customer that, the client actually, that checking account is like the way of him spending money. So I was like, okay, so then I'm gonna move money out of your checking account then. It's like, if we have to put like guards around the checking account for you not to spend it, no problem, we can do that. So do that for yourself if that's what you need. Put it aside, and then when you accumulate the $50,000, you're like, okay, we're doing the bathroom. Now, the key here is not to take the $50,000 and be like, oh, but we could totally pay off the student loans. Nope. And that's not what you save this money for. That's not what you work so hard to save this money for. This money is for that bathroom. Does that make sense? Great. Okay, now, next. Now we figured out that we want to get that bathroom. We know we need $50,000. Where the heck are we going to find that money? Is the follow-up question. So this is where I said that we're going to first, we have to figure out where are we now? Where is the business situated? So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to talk about two things in your business. One, is your business healthy? And two, are you running your business efficiently? So let's start. First thing is, are you running a healthy business? And that's when we talk gross profit margin. Yes, I do know that this is a very financy word. I do not want you to get caught up on the word piece of it. I do want you to understand what it means for you and your business. Gross profit margin clearly tells you if your services are valuable to the market, and are you effectively delivering on your service or product? It's as simple as that. Now, how you figure out what that number is for your business? Gross profit equals revenue minus cost of goods. And now cost of goods sold, cost of sales, they all mean the same thing. It's really just the cost you needed to incur to deliver on that product or service. Okay? And the gross profit margin is simply taking the gross profit divided by revenue. That gives you the gross profit margin. Now, how many of you?
Question, Admira?
Yes.
Cost of goods does not include your expenses, does it?
The what, Ma?
Cost of goods does not include expenses for the business?
No. I'm going to illustrate in just 1 minute.
Okay.
How many of you use QuickBooks for your bookkeeping? Great. So when you run your QuickBooks profit and loss statement, you would get, this is just a portion of the statement. You would get income, and then you get cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold is the piece where you record what it costed you to deliver on that service or product. I'll give you an example. Let's say it's a tutoring business, and we're going to tutor a student, and we're going to charge $500 for session. Totally made this up, but as illustration. Now, in order to deliver the tutoring session and for me to make that $500, I need a tutor to give the session. I have to pay a tutor something. So I have to, let's say I pay them $200 to deliver on this session. Now, income would be the 500. The cost of goods sold, it would be professional services, 200. And then I'll have a gross profit of $300. How I calculate the gross profit margin? Simple. I'll take that gross profit divided by income, and I get the margin. Now, here's two things I want to talk about here that are critical. One, you will only have an accurate gross profit margin if you have accurate data. Meaning, if you do not include all of your cost of goods sold in COGS, you're not going to have an accurate gross profit margin. So it's really, really important that you have it accurate. And I'm pointing at this because 9 out of 10 clients I get, that's the first thing I have to do is fix the COGS, because they do not have all the costs in there, which makes it challenging to compare it to what it should be. Now, why does it matter, and how would you know if you have a correct margin or not? Now, this depends on your industry. Each industry is a little different. Like, for example, sales as a software industry, their gross profit margin is 78%. That's the industry standard. For service-based businesses, it can range from 50 to 70%. I would Google search industry standards for your particular industry, because again, it varies by industry. As a rule of thumb, use 50% mark. If I don't have anything better, I'll use 50% and look at my margin. If it's less than 50%, then you know that your business is not the healthiest, which should be your first thing you should fix. And I'm also not telling you should fix it next day, but create a plan that each quarter you're gonna work towards increasing that number. If it's over 50%, then you know you're on a healthy side. Great. Are you at the target? Do a little research and figure out if you're at the target. Okay. The second thing I want to talk about is effectiveness. Efficiency. Are you running your business efficiently? And when I talk about this, I really talk about the meaningful numbers. Most of entrepreneurs I have and I work with, when I looked at their P&L was in alphabetical order. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. At least they have books, which is great. The problem that is that you don't understand what you're spending money on in a meaningful way. If I ask you a simple question, like, what are your operating expenses? And then you have to like juggle through and try to figure out all the expenses that would total the operating, that's not meaningful numbers. That said, your numbers should be relevant. You should group your expenses in 3 to 5 categories. Usually those are general administrative, payroll, sales and marketing. So 3 to 5 categories are meaningful to your business. 2, your data needs to be reliable. So your bookkeeping should be complete by the 15th of the month. If it's not, maybe you need to put the efforts on making sure that that is done. Because if you don't have data on time, then there's very little you can do once the time is gone. I mean, I wish I can say like, hey, we can go back in the past and do things. Well, that's not the case. So we have to be able to get data as fast as possible so we can make decisions faster. And third, consistency is key. You need to make sure that all of your expenses are consistently categorized. So you should not have, like, example, Adobe license. You should not be 1 month dues and subscription, next month's lawyer's fees, third month payroll. It's not helping understanding your numbers. So consistency is key. If I were to illustrate what this should look like, this is the second piece of the P&L that I showed earlier. So it stops the gross profit, and then you have general administrative, and then you have all these subcategories that go under general administrative. But if you ever were like, well, what are my operating costs? Oh, they're $274,000. Oh, okay, great. Simple, easy, doesn't take you hours to figure this out. What are my sales and marketing investments? $272,000. Oh, okay. Now there's follow-up on that. Like, are you getting the return on investment or not? But at least you understand, like, this is where you're spending your money. You're spending your money on sales. You're spending your money on operations. Should I get more efficient in operations? Should I spend less on sales? Like, that's, a strategic question you have to answer, but at least it gives you meaning behind, like, what are you spending in your business? Okay, so now there was a question which I'm going to answer in a minute. Now that we all use QuickBooks, what I would like you to do now is pull out QuickBooks and run your P&L for 2020. And when you run your P&L, I want you to take the total expenses. In my case, it's $1,005,796, and divide that number by the gross profit, which in my case is $1,194,000. And I would like you to share in the chat the percentage you get. And just full disclosure, whatever percentage you put there, it's not going to mean anything to anybody else. And I'll tell you in a minute why. But go ahead and put that percentage in the chat. And in the meantime, I'm going to read the question.
Is the gross profit the income?
So the first number would be the expense, total expenses, which is here, and then over gross profit.
How can I find the gross profit in my P&L?
It should be below, so you should have income and then cost of sale. And do you have cost of sales?
No.
Okay, so just divide it by income then.
Okay.
And that might be something, Karen, that you might want to look into, like start putting stuff in COGS so you could have a gross profit margin. Alex, I'm going to address your question right after. Okay, was anybody able to get a percentage? Okay. Now, let's figure out if you're running a efficient business. So, depending where you are in gross profit, the top line. And again, gross profit, in my case, he was 1.1. For Kieran, you would be the total income at this point. Depending where you are in the gross profit, what is your how is your percentage lining up with the number above? In my case, I'm at 84%. So if I take the million that I had, 1,000,005 over 1.1, that's 85%. For my $1 million business, I'm spending way too much money in operations than I should be. So my hypothetical business is not very efficient, even though if you were to ask me, like, oh, we're running a very tight ship here. Doesn't look to me like that. So how is that comparing to yours? If your number is higher than where you should be in this chart, what I would like you to do is Q4 is right around the corner. So Q4 planning should start. I want you to go through all of your expenses one by one and start eliminating expenses that you do not need in your business or you're not really using your business. I would look at software expenses because I see this all the time. I'll have clients who are like 5 Adobe licenses. I'm like, what do you need this for? Oh, we just, I'm like, no, I think you can do design with 1. I think it's totally fine. So let's cancel the other 4. So it's easy, especially with credit cards nowadays and automatic subscriptions, easy to get lost in the expenses you're spending. So the first thing you're going to do is compare yourself in this chart. If your number is higher than what it should be, then create a plan of how you're going to be more efficient. Okay. Now, there was a last thing I wanted to say about this, and I totally forgot. No, I didn't. It came back to me. So if you notice in my chart here, it doesn't equal 100%. So 10 plus 65 is 75. Because I'm missing the owner's pay in here. So if your owner's pay was included in the operating and investing costs, you want to take that out. That's separate. Okay. And the owner's pay should be part of that. Well, in my case, 25%. The owner's pay and tax, right? Because there's taxes piece. The business should be paying your taxes as well. So that's where the 25% difference would be. And I'm talking about the million side. Okay. Now, what I want to leave you with is there has to be enough money in the business to pay you, cover all your operating costs, and have profit, or it's not worth doing. Let me repeat it. There has to be enough money in the business to pay you and all of your dreams that you have, like be able to support that. Otherwise, cover all of your operating costs and have profit, or it's not worth doing. Now, I'm not here to tell you it's easy, but I'm here to tell you it's doable. As long as you create a right plan and follow it. Now, you probably have millions of questions asking me, how do I reduce costs? If you're interested in my one-to-one work, I will leave my contact information below. But most of the questions are most likely answered in the Profit Accelerator course that I created, and I made it available almost a month ago now, where what we did today is just a tip of the iceberg of what we go in the course. We go from deep dive into the goals, into creating a roadmap of how you're gonna get to that final destination. And then you have monthly targets you wanna hit, you wanna follow step by step, so that you know, so it doesn't become overwhelming. It becomes more like, oh, this is my focus for this month. So it gets into in a habit of accomplishing that. Now, I will follow up. So if you're interested to take control of your business finances on your own time, I will put the link in the chat. Go ahead and check Profit Accelerator. We will follow up with an email to the replay of this masterclass. So if you know anybody else who might benefit from taking control of their business finances, please forward them the link and let them watch the masterclass. So maybe they get inspired as well. And I think that is it. And we still have time for questions, which is awesome. So any questions, I am able to address them for another 12 minutes, which is amazing. Rich is already driving. I'm so jealous. Any questions? I'm going to address actually Alex's question above very quickly. So the question was, as a service-based business, this is a thing I most struggle with versus just subtracting COGS. Alex, can you elaborate a little bit on that question?
Okay, so if you are a brick and mortar store, it's a lot clearer to figure out, here's my inventory, here's my cost for certain things, and then calculate out gross margins. With services, it's a little fuzzier because I might have an hourly rate for nonprofits, a slightly higher hourly rate for other types of businesses. It can just be a little bit fuzzier. And so calculating out your cost is really tied to your time and the value you put on that, right? So I don't know if there's a guideline that can better calculate out expenses like that.
Yeah, so I hear your struggle. It's not an easy one. So what I would do is first figure out what is your value, like what's your cost. I'll give you an example. So let's say that you wanna make $150,000 a year. I'm totally making this up. Break that down to the hourly rate. So 28 is 2,080 hours a year you can mostly work. If you take the holidays, that's 1920. So divide that by 1920. That's your rate, your cost rate. Now that doesn't mean that that's the rate you're going to charge clients, by no means, but that's your cost rate. I would, especially as a solopreneur, and that when you're putting most of your time yourself into things, it's important that you track your time. Because we go back to that, is your business healthy or not? Are you charging enough or you're not? And you're not going to know that unless you track your time. Is it somewhat painful? I mean, yes. I haven't met a single employer or employees that have said, I really love to track time. But as a small business owner, it's important that you keep an eye of like, what are you spending? And then once you get that, and it could be that you are tracking this for maybe a few months until you get like a sense where you are, and then you don't have to do that anymore. But you really do have to track the time. Like there's no way around it. I've had people who use percentages. I've had people who use but it just never worked. Just that's my best advice, to get the most accurate data, of course.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, you have a lot of practice on that one. Rich, you had a question.
Sorry, having trouble finding my mute on this phone. So I just reinvested in my business by hiring a virtual assistant to help me with marketing. And so basically the thrust of this is I wanted to grow the business faster, and SEO and growing it organically wasn't really giving me what I wanted. So I brought this guy in to help me create ads and funnels. But the question is, when you do something, I just totally shot from the hip, so my profits are much reduced as a result. As a rule, is there like a percentage we should be thinking of when we make this kind of move, when we just make a decision? All right, I'm gonna bite the bullet on profits for a little while, so that I can grow this thing bigger? Is there kind of a rule of thumb of what percentage we should be investing in and the how long is obviously going to be like, well, if you're not growing in 90 days, then you probably made a mistake.
Yeah, a quarter is a good timeline. So to address that, that's what's the easy answer. A quarter is a good timeline. I always say plan for the year, operate per quarter. Like we have a yearly plan, but every quarter we should like.
How about just as a percentage of gross or a percentage of profit even? How much do you want to carve away for that?
Right. So here's my rule of thumb on this one. I get clients who ask that question, and I also have clients who are like, well, I just want to take risks. And I'm like, okay, that's great. So there's a percent of profit that you're supposed to have in the business. And again, depending where you are on the chart that I just provided. I would, depending on the side, I would never go below breaking even. If that's like the worst. Always try to have like, and we're talking a quarter here, so it's not like a crazy amount, but try to keep the profits at least at 10%, and whatever extra there is to invest in a certain activity would be helpful. But the worst case, you should break even.
10% plus salary.
Oh, that's it. Like you have to take the salary. Like,
yeah,
okay,
I just want to make sure we're talking the same language.
Let me back up a little bit. The business first has to pay you first. What's left after that, you can invest. You can choose to invest in whatever that is. Some people want to grow the business, so they'll choose to invest it in growth. Some people want to do it in operations. They can put it in there. That's your choice, but that's only after you have paid you. Okay? Just to be clear on that, again, business has to pay you. You always come first.
Yeah, no, totally clear. Thank you.
It's so hard to pay yourself. I know. I see this struggle a lot. Most of the clients I get are in the point of like, I'm just not paying myself enough. Like, I mean, I live a good life. I'm like, well, that's not the point of this business. Like for that, you could have just gone and gotten a job. Like, salary is good enough. But point of business is that you support yourself and your dreams while you try to do good in the world, right? So everybody's dreams are different, right? So it is hard, but you make it priority. That's when what's the planning comes in place. Plan, you have the revenue, you have your costs, you put your amount you need, and then the rest. Like you really just have to make it a priority. It's not easy. I've said it earlier, it's not easy, but it is doable. Awesome. Any other questions?
Well, just piggybacking off of that same comment, do you recommend owner distributions or paying yourself like actual salary through payroll? Like, I mean, I'm an LLC, but in general, will payroll like kind of force me, I guess, to pay myself?
It depends. And this goes with a tax question, which I am not a tax accountant, so I could not advise on taxes specifically. But from a general perspective, it depends. And when I say that is like, if you, for example, if you're an S Corp, I know you have to pay yourself through, you can be an LLC, but be treated as an S Corp for taxes. And for that, you have to be on payroll. Like that, those are just the rules, the IRS rules. If you're a solopreneur, maybe it doesn't make sense that you are on payroll, but does not mean that you should not be paying yourself. Now, for granted, if payroll is going to force you to pay yourself, then do that. If that's what it's going to help, then do it. There's no right or wrong answer, because if you don't pay yourself through payroll, business still has to pay the taxes. Now, if you're not disciplined enough, and there's nothing wrong with this, by the way, we all have our weaknesses, and it's good that we know where they are, so that way we can work around them. So it's like, I'm just not disciplined enough to pay myself because I find other things that are more important. Okay, well, put a barrier in there so it stops you from that. And if that means that you're gonna have to start payroll to pay yourself, then please do that. It's not that you're gonna pay more doing that. It's just gonna create a habit of getting you paid.
Right.
Yeah.
I need to trick myself at some point.
Yeah, it's habits, but this is why I say, like, and even with a checking account, I had people are like, if I see the money in the checking account, I'm just gonna spend it. I'm like, great, I'm gonna remove it. It's like, I'm gonna take the money out of that checking account of yours, and then you're not gonna see it, and you're not gonna use it. And I get to learn this about entrepreneurs and different ones that have different habits, which is totally fine. At the end, the goal is to accomplish your goals, your dreams, and your wants.
Mm-hmm.
And if that means that we just have to like work around how we usually behave, so be it. The end goal doesn't change. It's just how we get there. We might have to just take a few detours and get to our final point.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Any other last questions? I'm going to stop sharing this, by the way. Oh, and I'm going to put the information that I said I was going to put in the chat and I didn't. There we go. Okay, well, if there's no other questions, it was such a pleasure having you on this call today. Like I said, we will follow up with an email to this masterclass. And if you would like to reach out, that's my contact information. Feel free to schedule one-to-one. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.